Coming up next, it's Blue's Clues, right here on Nick Jr.
I'm certain that it's no surprise that some of you who were born in either the 90s or early 2000s may have heard of those familiar toots at some point, whether it be through regular broadcasts of shows featured on Nickelodeon's Nick Jr. block, or some of the VHS tapes that were released around that time. Chances are you've heard of Face, one of the most popular mascots from that era of preschool television. I too grew up with Face, mostly through those Blue's Clues tapes my parents used to own around the house, but more so on the I used to be creeped out by Face as a kid spectrum. Not really to the point of having nightmares based around him, but you get the idea. Luckily for me, as I grew older, I started to appreciate the effort put into each of the promos this happy-go-lucky ball of sunshine starred in throughout the years he's been on our then square screens. And now it's the year 2022, and for the folks over at Nickelodeon Nick Jr., this seems like the perfect time to reveal Face's return, in the form of a music-based variety show known as Face's Music Party.
The most awesome music party ever is right in front of your face! That's me!
Released in June of this year, Face's Music Party stars of course Face as he takes on the role of a video jockey, showcasing the different themes of each 11-minute segment, informing the viewer on what it means, as well as playing songs based around said theme, including remixed versions of classic nursery rhymes. Now, this isn't the only time Nickelodeon has brought back one of the most beloved properties from the past, as proven time and time again with the straight-to-video specials based on Rocco and Zim, the Rugrats reboot, as well as the series Blue's Clues and You, which came out a few years prior to Face's Music Party. When Face's Music Party was announced via the Nick Upfront a few months before the show's release, those who grew up with the Face we all know and love are either excited to see Face again after nearly 2 decades off the air, or upset the new direction Nick is going for. Regardless, I personally find Face's Music Party to be, so far, a pretty fun time and might potentially be one of my new favorite comfort shows. I do have some criticism to point out, however, but I'll get into that later because I need to discuss the show's pros first. Trust me when I say there's a lot more of what I like about Face's Music Party than what I don't like.
Ahem! You're invited to Face's Music Party this summer on Nickelodeon. See you soon!
Probably the biggest pros I can give to the show is the art direction as well as the videos that accompany the music showcased throughout each segment. I'll start with the visuals first. I fucking adore it from start to finish. It's simple in design, yet full of charm and execution. In fact, it reminds me a lot of the look of the Mr. Men show with its simple 𝘴𝘩𝘰𝘸�inspired look, as well as music videos for the Storybots' songs on shapes. That goes to show how much I love the art direction in the show. When I first saw Face's new look at the upfront, I wasn't too big into it as it reminded me a lot of the stickers from the likes of Sandylion or Fashion Angel, whichever makes more sense. But as time progressed, I got used to this iteration more than I ever thought I should. I also might be the only person in the world who likes this new Face design, as he looks a lot friendlier and cuter than his old self. No offense to those who prefer the older incarnation though. As for the videos that accompany the songs of each of the episode segments, I appreciate the amount of variety and style each one has. Definitely harkens back to the videos for the jingles that would play on each episode of 𝑦𝑜𝑔𝑎𝑏𝑎𝑔𝑎𝑏𝑎. My personal favorites of these would be the videos for the ants go marching, the purple people eater, and Puff the Magic Dragon. As for Cedric Williams' performance of Face, I liked it for what it is, as hearing his voice through Face's character makes me think of this new incarnation as somewhat of a young teen or an older brother.
Normally, I need a scuba tank or a snorkel to be down here. But since we're just pretending, I might as well make myself into a mermaid.
When in comparison to Chris's original performance of Face, who sounds more childlike and goofy.
Sometimes I have
a big mouth
and little eyes.
Speaking of Face, I also like how this version of the character shows more emotions beyond joy more often. And while yeah, Face did express himself in more ways than one back then, but because Face used to be featured in promos and interstitials, you can definitely see how much limits the writers were given on what they can do with Face at the time. I especially love the moments in Music Party where you can tell that Face is almost at the brink of losing his shit, regardless of context.
Hey! Hey! Hey, I'm not a car. Not cool. Alright. Let's quiet down so I can introduce the next part of the show. Come on, Your Majesty. Fellas, please. Fine.
And now it's time to finally address the elephant in the room that I'm sure y'all have been waiting for, the cons of Face's Music Party. But you might be wondering, what cons? I'll start with the more harmless one of the two, and that is one always shown. There are some moments where the animated portions of the show have this weirdly unnecessary motion blur movement to it. Not sure why that's needed when the show already looks fine without it. The other con that I'll address now is a lot more touchier than the former. So if you've already seen Music Party and know exactly what I'm referring to, skip to this timestamp on screen now. But for the unaware, in the first segment of the show's first episode, Friendship, the very first song showcased throughout the show's entirety is Together from Sia's movie Music.
That's the name of the song I'm dedicating to you, my new friend. Watch the video Together by Sia.
Yeah, I am not making this shit up. The film itself was negatively received for how the titled character is portrayed as not only the stereotypical interpretation of autistics in general, but also for how said title character is barely written in the film. For a movie named after the character we are supposed to focus on, they didn't do shit with her. No, I haven't seen the film in its entirety. Besides, I don't want to suffer, I want to live, damn it! The film was so poorly received, in fact, that it even won 3 Razzies for Worst Director, Worst Actress, and Worst Supporting Actress. That right there goes to show you that you know you failed at making a movie that's supposed to appeal to an autistic audience. I'm sure you can find plenty of reviews of it online that do a much better job of breaking down how much of a mess this movie was than I could ever lecture you on. But why choose a clip from this film of all things to put in a music variety show aimed at preschoolers who don't know who Sia is and what she's done over the years? Well, I may have a theory for this one. Around the same day the second episode of Music Party premiered, an episode of the DJ Bob Show, great show by the way, came out where the titled host interviewed not only Cedric Williams, the voice of Face, but also executive producer / showrunner David Clayer. According to David, the live-action segments featured in the show were shot all the way back in March of 2021, and Sia's film Music came out a month prior. So maybe some of the people that worked on Music Party saw bits and pieces of the film, mostly the musical segments, and thought, that Sia chick's got some pretty kickin' tunes she made for her movie. How's about we pull them in for the show?
Huh?
That might just be me pulling all this out of my ass, but I want to believe.
No freaking duh!
I'll link the episode of the DJ Bob Show below that I highly recommend you listen to, as it showcases how this whole show came to be and such. Despite the criticism I've addressed, I still had a good time watching Face's Music Party through and through, and I'm looking forward to what the rest of the show's upcoming episodes are going to be like. Maybe have a segment themed around space? The jungle? Who knows? If you want to see the show for yourself, then you can go on to Nick Jr.'s website or go on any other streaming service that has Face's Music Party available for you to legally watch. Or you can probably pirate it.
It's an all-new Faces Music Party next Monday at 11, part of Music Mondays on Nickelodeon.
Nick Jr. Nick Jr. Nick Jr. Do do.